Hello, Dr. Sulak.
All right, Dr. Lonnie, good to see you.
Wow, thank you for coming on. Hey guys, welcome. This is the Ganja Beach Medical Center. I am Dr. Everybody. I am so pleased. We're proud to have Dr. Dustin Sulak here, eminent cannabis medicine clinician and person I trained with last year. I had the pleasure and to call him my mentor, just a wealth of knowledge. And thank you for joining us here tonight, Dr. Sulak. It's a pleasure to have you. I just want to let everyone know this is the new version of my show, Ganja Beach Medical Center. And it's not to be confused with Ganja Beach Nerds with Herbgasm Ricky or Ganja Beach Cooking Show with Chef Mary. By the way, if you haven't heard, Chef Mary has an amazing cookbook and you can pre-order it now. She's got over 50 recipes in it, guys. Just unbelievable amount of really good stuff. I can't wait to try it. We have an amazing guest, Dr. Sulak, but have you met Gabe? This is Super Gabe Osborne from Ganja Beach Radio.
How we doing, buddy?
All right, hey Gabe, doing great.
Doing good, man.
So I wanted to just find out a little bit about what's going on in your life these days. Dr. Sulak, can you tell us a little bit about you and what it is that you want us to know about Dr. Sulak and healer.com?
Okay, sure. So, like probably so many of us, I've loved cannabis for a long time, but really didn't expect cannabis to take over my medical career, which it did right after I opened a private practice here in Maine back in 2009. So my background is that I'm an osteopathic physician. I've long been interested in natural ways to promote healing and looking to integrate that with conventional treatment. So beyond my osteopathic background, I'm a hypnotherapist. I have a lot of experience with herbs and homeopathy and just other natural approaches to health. And I've really loved cannabis since my teens and worked as a cannabis activist since my late teens to try to correct the injustice of prohibition. But when I opened this practice in 2009, what happened was it was the same year that Maine significantly expanded its medical cannabis program. And I turned out to be one of the only doctors in the state willing to sign off for patients to use it legally. And so my practice was completely taken over by cannabis. I learned an immense amount from my early patients who were already using cannabis. And now fast forward over a decade, I've been working with thousands of patients. My colleagues and I at this practice have seen, I think, around 18,000 patients or 19,000 total. We currently follow around 8,000 every year. And most of our new patients now are brand new to cannabis, have never tried it before. We treat a lot of pediatrics, a lot of elders. Pretty much we're magnets for conditions that don't respond to conventional therapy, and they come here and we figure out ways to help people with cannabis and integrative medicine. There's other tools we use as well, but it's just so incredible that cannabis is as versatile as it is in treating conditions from all these different areas of medicine, and so safe, so much safer than a lot of the other treatments that these patients have to turn to and that have already turned to and failed. So I love my career. I love my work. I'm excited, especially excited today. What's going on today for me? It's amazing. The UN today said that cannabis should not be considered with their version of a Schedule 1 drug. It's actually Schedule 4 for the UN. So we have the UN now saying that cannabis actually has medical value and it's not that dangerous. We have the House of Representatives soon to vote on the MORE Act, which would take cannabis off the scheduling in our country. So, at the election in November, we had huge success with cannabis. I've also got, I just found out today that for the second time this week that I have a peer-reviewed publication that was published. So 2 this week, both related to using cannabis to help people get off opioids, which is still a very important topic that I'm sure we'll cover tonight. So I'm jazzed. I had a full day of patients today. I love my patients. I love my work. I got a beautiful space to work in. As you can see, Lonnie, I got a lot to be thankful for.
Well, having been to your office and seen you work, you do love your work. The passion shows, the care shows. I see that your patients love you. So that's something that flows through as you talk. You can tell that you really are in touch with cannabis, and that's the part that I'm excited about. When you talk about the world looking at this in a different way, we are changing a paradigm. You talk about medicine and it not working and people looking for a different way of achieving the benefits. Mental health is what I do, integrative psychology. So looking at children, looking at adults that don't want to take medications riddled with side effects. And this is where you've taught me a great deal about things like the acidic cannabinoids. And it's just been so much fun to work with the clients and share with them this knowledge. I wanted to find out a little bit more about I heard that you launched a line of CBD products and medical cannabis products. And I was curious to hear a little bit more about them, if you could share with us.
Yeah, sure. So, I've had this blessing and challenge over the last decade of treating my patients with products made by other people. And, sometimes we get good results and sometimes we don't, and sometimes surprisingly good results and surprisingly bad results. And just so often in this industry, products are mislabeled or accidentally contaminated or, below the quality level that we would want to use on ourselves and our families, and our patients. And so while I think that there have been good quality products out there, I just reached a point where I needed to be able to answer the question everyone kept asking me, like, which products do you trust? Which products do you fully trust? And of course, there was no answer to that unless I'm fully involved in the quality control of a product. Plus, in my mind, I want to formulate products in a way that's a little bit different than what a lot of people are doing out there. And specifically, I want to keep everything that's in that cannabis flower as much as possible and get that into the bottle and not lose all the terpenes and not fully decarboxylate and lose the acidic cannabinoids and really make it a medicine that I think will be more effective at a lower dose so people get better cost effectiveness and just better results overall. And then, I think the other big problem that people have been having in cannabis with CBD and with medical cannabis is that they might have a good product, but they have no idea how to use it. And so this is a problem I've been working on for a long time, but I really want to keep things simple for people and straightforward to not just give them great products, but the education that needs to go with it. And of course, complex cases will need someone like you or I, Lonnie, to help individualize the treatment plan. But a lot of people can get good results with just kind of a basic generic approach, and it's safe to do that. So that's where the Healer products have come from. We make CBD and CBDA products, and we'll talk more about the difference, I'm sure, between those two. And these are from outdoor grown, organically grown hemp from a nearby farm here in Maine. All of our products are processed using very cold ethanol extraction. We pass it through nano filters. These are filters that we adapted from the water industry to work with ethanol that has cannabis in it. And it just cleans it up. It really removes any biologic contaminants. And we're certain, we fully test, our products are free from heavy metals, pesticides, microbial contaminants, mold toxins, you name it. Like we have fully clean products, and there's no hidden ingredients. It's just cannabis and a carrier oil. We're using MCT, which is a type of coconut oil. So it's just really pure products. People keep reporting. I mean, if you look at our reviews, what we're hearing is what we hope to hear, is that you can use our products at a lower dosage than other products and get better results. And I think that's the goal here. So that's the short story about my Healer products. And I'm really enthused to be able to treat my patients with my own medicines now. So besides the hemp, which ships all over the country, just for patients in Maine, and then we also have a smaller product line in Maryland, I have THC containing products. God willing, we'll get to the point where these are available across state lines as well. But if you're near Maine, our THC containing products are just incredible. I'm really loving them.
I remember you did a webinar several months back with Dr. Ethan Russo. And if you guys don't know who he is, he's famous for introducing this term, the entourage effect, which talks about the synergy with all the compounds in the plant. And he talked about what he considered his ideal medicine. So when I heard that you have this balance product, and I asked you last time what it was, just fascinated to hear that you created that ideal product. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that approach is?
Yeah, sure. So, I guess, there's a really interesting story that goes along with this, because forever people would call THCA and CBDA the inactive cannabinoids, or the precursors, the pre-drugs, the prodrugs, because for the listeners that don't know this, the cannabis plant does not produce THC or CBD. It produces THCA and CBDA, and then these are converted into THC and CBD either slowly at a kind of a room temperature or very quickly with heat, and that's the process called decarboxylation. And because THC had these really obvious effects, both medical effects and psychoactive effects, and of course those are interrelated. But everyone thought, well, THC is active, THCA is not active, and so it turns out that is couldn't be further from the truth. And this goes back, just a quick story, back to 2013 or 14, I think, when after the first weed episode from Sanjay Gupta, and people wanted to start using CBD to treat seizures. So we had this huge influx of seizure patients here in the practice. And to figure out how to deal with them, we set up a cannabis analytic laboratory right here. So people were bringing in, because back then no products were labeled, nobody knew how many milligrams was in a drop or a dropper. And so, our first seizure patient, brings in this bottle. They bought it at a local dispensary. It's totally unlabeled. They say, like, this CBD is working on the seizures. The seizures were like several a day, and now they're almost gone. And I was like, so excited. Let's take this bottle, let's run it through our equipment and figure out, is it 1 milligram of CBD or 100? I have no clue. Back then we really didn't know. And so we run it through the equipment. There's no CBD in there. There's no THC in there. There's just this little bit of THCA. And I'm like, what? Is that possible? And so we ran it again. And then the next week, another person with the same bottle from the same dispensary comes in, also having results for seizures. And so that was like the little light bulb went off. At first I was thinking, no, what could THCA do? And now, all these years later, we realize THCA is an incredibly potent and powerful treatment, not just for seizures, but for lots of things. And it seems to potentiate or make the THC stronger. It has properties on its own that are very distinct from THC, and they go really well together. So getting back to the balanced product, what we did was we took equal amounts of THC, THCA, CBD, and CBDA, and beyond having equal amounts of those, we used a variety of types of cannabis. So, the strains or chemovars of cannabis, we didn't want to just rely on one or two. So we blended a whole bunch together to get this really broad spectrum effect. And it's this like catch-all formula. If you have no clue where to start or how much to take, like this is something that makes it easy for people. And it's great. I love the balanced formula. I feel so good when I take it.
I have actually been using your CBDA product for the past month or so, and I've got to tell you, it's on a completely different order of magnitude, a few drops as opposed to a dropper, and
yes.
You can feel it very fast. Your CBD has such a potency to it that it has this beautiful peppery taste that might be a little strong for some people, but I love the taste of it. And you can tell it has literally all the terpenes, flavonoids, everything that makes the plant good is in it. And I love that purist attitude where you don't take anything out of it. Nobody Frankensteins it, puts it back together. It's literally the whole plant. That's what people don't understand, what that synergy is. Pharmaceutical companies have tried to create the silver bullets, as you call them, and they're losing the efficacy because it doesn't have that entourage effect. In your case, the products are just wonderful products. How did you come about this idea of, the mixing? I like the idea where you don't just have one strain of hemp, you're mixing them. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. And I just want to say, like, I don't want this to be all about my products. Like, I'm super enthusiastic about this. I would love for everyone else in the cannabis industry to copy. Like, go for it. Like, make the same products, get the quality standards up, fix your labeling, and that's fine. There's lots of people that can do good work here, and there's room for everyone. But this is new for me, right? To have products that I can be 100% confident in and know exactly what's in there and how thoroughly they're tested. So why different varieties? I think for a long time, one thing that I've seen with people is that when they rely just on one variety of cannabis, it tends to stop working as well for them over time. This isn't an absolute rule, but this is a trend that I've observed for a long time. And when people tend to blend them together, that doesn't happen as much, either when they mix it up throughout the day or when they literally make a salad and blend the cannabis together like in one joint. Like, Gabe, man, you're tempting me here. If you can pass that.
There you go, buddy.
So that was the early hit in that direction. But then it was really Dedi Meiri's research out of Israel where he looked at first what he did was look at over a dozen different strains of cannabis and how cell cultures of cancer would respond to them. And what he would show is like, this type of cancer, you take one strain with, say, THC dominant and another strain with almost the same exact amount of THC and CBD in it, but one will kill the cancer and the other doesn't kill the cancer. And so what's the difference there? Well, he looked deeper at about 130 different cannabinoids. Many of them don't even have names and no labs in the US can test for them. But he actually found that some of these trace cannabinoids are what's doing the trick. And they must be ultra potent because they're present at very low levels, but their presence makes all the difference in the anti-cancer effects. So then I'm thinking, well, we have no way of even testing for these things. We don't know anything about how they work or what they do. And it's always good to let our work not just be informed by the things we know, but also informed by what we don't know. And so, not knowing what the hell is going on there, we got to well, I think the best bet we're going to have at this point in the field is to blend several varieties together and hope that provides this really broad spectrum of the minor components that we can't test for.
So I had an experience once. I did mushrooms, and I know this is a cannabis show. We're going to get right back on cannabis, I promise. But I did mushrooms, and I had a little insight. And one of the things that I learned, and I want you to either confirm or deny. But one of the things I learned about cannabis was that indica was like the dye that what you give to a cancer patient, you put a little dye in their body so that you can see, when you put them through the scanner, like what's going on. Yeah. And I feel like the sativa has been the attacker. It's like once you put the dye in the body, it's like, oh, there's the map. There's all the cancer. There's all the issues. Now the sativa can go in there and attack everything.
Well,
I feel like the sativa are like the little worker bees.
That's amazing, Gabe. I mean, that's a new concept for me, and I think there's probably something to that. I wouldn't divide it up into indica and sativa, but I would just say that there probably are certain aspects of cannabis and some varieties of cannabis that are more likely to kind of be alerting to the healing system, whether it's the immune system or the consciousness psychological system. And I mean, we get that all the time, Lonnie, and I'm sure you do too, Gabe, in your own experience, where people will use certain types of cannabis and then realize what the hell is going on with them and that they need to do something about it. It shows up on their internal scan, right?
Yeah.
And then other types of cannabis are better at promoting that transformation. And probably the sativa varieties or these more energetic, uplifting varieties could be better for that. So a great realization. Keep them coming. I think using our ordinary consciousness to accommodate mushroom-induced insights is really a healthy practice, actually.
You know what? That's I try to. I haven't reached the shaman dose. We've been talking about the shaman dose, Lonnie and I, which is about 7 grams, and we've been talking about that, and I haven't reached it yet because I don't know. Seeing aliens kind of scares me. So
aliens, angels, they're all the same thing, so
hey,
whatever.
I like the way you said that. Hey, real quick though, I want to announce that we are going to be doing a giveaway. Dr. Sulak has gave us some CBD that we're going to be giving away, and we're going to be giving away after the show. So guys, stay tuned to after the show. Stick around so that we can go ahead and give that away for you guys. Yeah, I just wanted to, yeah, there you go. See? Right there. There's our CBD. What is that? That says 200 milligrams?
Yeah, 200 milligrams. This is a little sample bottle, but I think we're giving away a bigger one. But we do offer these little ones for people to try, and they seem so little, but like Lonnie was saying, these things are potent, and a few drops can go a long ways.
A couple drops under the tongue is all you need. Start low and slow, like everyone says. I mean, Dr. Sulak, what do you say? Because, a lot of I used to work in a company that sold CBD, right? And one of the things is we had to be very careful what we were saying, right? So, you couldn't make any medical claims. But you're a doctor.
I'm a doctor, but it's still like that. So our patient education material for cannabis is called the cannabis dosing guide, right? But for CBD, it's called the usage guide because we're not dosing it, we're using it. It's just different. It's right now our country does not recognize CBD as a nutritional supplement, and even if it did, we'd still the supplement industry is under great scrutiny. The conventional medicine does not want to lose footing to these safer over-the-counter treatments, and so we have to walk that line carefully, but we can't hold back. We have a mission here to help people, and there's a ton of people that need help. So we got to get the information out there some ways, and it's So with hemp products, we have to stick to what's called structure and function claims. We don't want to claim that it's going to cure anything, and I think that's good. If you look at the opioid epidemic that we're dealing with right now, that's related to misinformation by the medical profession. That ends up being the number one killer of people under 50 in this country. It begins with misinformation from doctors, essentially. And so I really don't, of course, cannabis could never create any kind of destruction anywhere near what opioids created, but still, I don't want to make those same mistakes. I don't want to, lead people to believe that cannabis is a sure cure for anything that they've got, and deter people from talking about this with their doctors or whatever. So we have to be responsible. I want to stay responsible, but at the same time, we got to get this information out there. There's so many people we can help.
Absolutely. And there was a question out there that they were wondering if there were questions open for the viewers. Is that okay? We get some questions?
Great with me, yeah.
Yeah, let's get some questions, guys. Make sure to go ahead and put that into the comment section, and I'm gonna give it to Dr. Lonnie because he's the smart one. I'm just the pothead.
Well, I remember when we were talking last time. It was last year, and some things that you shared with us about like your regimen of self-care. And I wonder if you might be comfortable sharing a little bit about what you feel is a good overall way to incorporate cannabis into a person's lifestyle for overall health and self-care.
Yeah, great. I'd be happy to share. I mean, I think the best place to start is sleep. So thankfully, my sleep is fine. I don't typically need cannabis to help me with sleep. But if anybody that's not sleeping well wants a place to start that's going to have high impact on the rest of their life, a little bit of THC before bed is amazing. And it really doesn't have to be a lot. So I'd say first dial in your sleep. If it's trouble falling asleep, a little inhaled cannabis, not right before bed, but maybe like 30 minutes or 15 minutes before bed, help that wind down, and then you get into bed. And for people that have trouble staying asleep, the inhaled is not going to last all night. So you need to take something by mouth. And again, I would always recommend this to be THC dominant if you have that option. And the reason for that is because I find that people have a variable response to CBD. Some people, it really helps them sleep great. Other people, it keeps them awake. Other people, it does nothing to their sleep. And it's safe enough to figure out who you are, what kind of response you'll have. But for a more sure bet, some THC. So, I usually recommend people start with just a couple milligrams of THC by mouth before bed and bump it up by 1 milligram every other night until they, either get a great night's sleep or until they wake up feeling stoned. Because even stoners don't really like to wake up feeling stoned. They like to wake up and get stoned. So, you don't want to take that huge dose the night before and wake up with that feeling. But that's the place to start. So I don't really have that issue. I use cannabis more as a adjunct to my health practice and spiritual practice. So about half of the time when I do intense exercise, I'll use cannabis beforehand. And I find that it gets me deeper into yoga, deeper into strength training. This summer, interestingly, I got really into inline skating. The COVID shutdown thing happened. It was so funny. My mom was getting ready to move to Maine, and she dug up all these old pictures, and she sent me a picture of myself at age 12 or 13 wearing rollerblades. And I got it back in my blood. I need these. And I live out in the country. They paved all these country roads brand new this year. And so they're just these beautiful meadows and forests. And I got myself some blades, and I just went skating so much this summer. And cannabis really enhanced my ability to just be present and appreciate the colors and turn this thing that a lot of people beat themselves up about self-care and exercise. Like, I should be doing this, I should be exercising, I should be eating better. And honestly, that's, even though it feels like it's coming from inside, that's extrinsic motivation. That's stress. That is not going to be that helpful. I mean, instead, if you're like, oh, I can't wait to get out there tomorrow morning, because it feels so good. And I think for a lot of people, combining cannabis with their self-care gives it that flavor where they really start looking forward to it. I mean, I've heard this from lots of people, that it just changes their relationship with self-care. So, for me, cannabis in the morning, sometimes I'll do either, some CBD, or if I'm a little sore or something, I'll do like a combination of CBD and THC below the threshold of what's going to impair me. And then usually after work, I'll do some inhaled cannabis and use that for like reflection, meditation, introspection. I absolutely think that cannabis is a great adjunct to intimacy. I think it helps me be a better parent. To get these benefits, one does not have to be stoned off their ass. They don't have to be impaired. It's just the slight shifts in consciousness that make people feel more like themselves, can be just so helpful. The other thing that I do is I add a little nug of cannabis to my tea. Almost every time I make a tea at home, I'm putting a little bit of flour in there, and I'm using a type of flour that has both CBDA and THCA in it. And this is underrated. I think for people that are healthy, that want to use cannabis to stay healthy, drinking cannabis tea is amazing. It's not going to give you any impairment. It's just going to give you resilience to stress and a boost. So I love the cannabis tea. So that's, I think those are the basics of my self-care. I love inversion, so I do a headstand just about every day. Spend about 10 to 15 minutes upside down. And I love cold exposure and heat, thermotherapy, right? So I jump in, we have a little portable sauna. I jump in there a couple times a week and just sweat a ton. And then somewhere between 2 and 5 times a week, actually, depending on the weather, I'm outside of my backyard taking a shower in the cold weather. So this morning it was right at about 32 degrees here, and steam coming off my body, and just like all this, sun coming up through the trees, and I just felt so alive. But the secret for that is the Wim Hof method. And so there's this technique of breathing that is also extremely healthy and a great workout unto itself, but that prepares one to go get in the cold and reap all the benefits. So I recommend Wim Hof method to a lot of my patients. For anyone that thinks I'm crazy, trust me, there's a lot of research on cold exposure in general associated with people living longer and having better health outcomes and less depression, less cancer. But there's also research directly on this method showing that you can decrease inflammation and have all these other great outcomes in the body just by doing a little breathing and jumping in the cold shower. So those are my favorites.
I mean, that's what it's about. It's about pushing your body so you don't become stagnant, and that's what we really need to do. It's that border between, stagnation and doing too much that we thrive, and it's this balance that we need to kind of work towards. I love the way you taught when I met you last year, the cannabis teas, and I can't tell you how many patients I've taught that to. And, that was the only way up until this point to get CBDA, was to get your hands on some hemp flower and to use that. THCA is another thing, but I like what you're saying about a flower that's dominant, that has both. It's not dominant in one or the other, it has both. So that's another great point to take away from this. And when you say a little nug, pea-sized, I think you had talked about, doesn't have to be a lot.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it depends how dense it is. A lot of the jars that I've got at home are backyard herb, which we didn't do a lot of care for. So I might go a little bit bigger than a pea size because it's a little, scraggly, if you will. But if you're dealing with the dense buds that most places sell, yeah, just literally the size of a pea or a pencil eraser is enough. It'll expand, of course, once it gets wet. But it really doesn't need to be a lot. The acidic cannabinoids have great bioavailability, so they get absorbed through the gut way better than THC and CBD. You really don't need much.
Wow, that's so neat.
I'm fascinated by that, and I'm kind of wondering if this is a tie-in. I'm looking at the questions we have here from some of our viewers, and Jordan Helene Pearson asks, what is your favorite cannabinoid?
THC, come on. So, yeah, so I'm excited.
Amen,
I'm
brother.
extremely excited by the acidic cannabinoids and some of these other trace cannabinoids. Like, they're new and exciting to me. And CBG, I'm starting to use that in my practice and seeing some nice results with CBG. But THC is the primary medicinal, spiritual, social component of cannabis. I don't think we're going to see that change. And yes, if I could pick one, it's undoubtedly THC. The gifts are just so numerous, and THC mimics something that our bodies do, right? So our endocannabinoid system, the compounds produced by our inner pharmacy that are used to regulate our health and our mental health and behavior throughout our lives, that regulate our development. THC works almost identical to these compounds. So just from a perspective of this, like, it's not a bioidentical molecule, but its activity is almost identical. So that's, that just emphasizes my love for THC. It's like we were just built for this stuff.
Absolutely.
And another question, which is sort of building on this, Jordan was also asking, what methods of consumption do you prefer? Is there any one way or a variety of ways that you prefer?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think for people that are getting used to cannabis, the liquid preparations, which are usually called tinctures, even though a lot of them are infused oils. So in the herbal medicine world, a tincture by definition would be something made with alcohol, but you can call it whatever you want. These tinctures are liquid preparations of cannabis. It's just really easy to adjust the dosage. I think that you can hold them in your mouth and start to get some absorption in the mouth before you swallow it. So a little faster onset than like a capsule or an edible or something, and a longer lasting effects than smoking or vaporizing. So if I could pick one that's versatile and that would be good for everyone, it would be these liquid preparation delivered in the mouth. But I mean, let's not pick one. That's the beauty of cannabis. I'd say, like, most people with real medical conditions that use cannabis are using more than one delivery method. That's common. It's unusual for people to use just one, because the versatility of cannabis is that you could have a baseline treatment with tinctures. You could take a capsule before bed, or maybe when you're traveling, switch over to capsules for convenience sake. If you have episodic breakthrough symptoms or something that happens every once in a while, like a migraine, you could smoke right then or vaporize right then and take care of that. Or if you're just once a week wanting to use cannabis, not just to relieve your symptoms, but maybe as a part of your spiritual practice or your relationship building practice, whatever that might be, then you got the inhaled cannabis. Like, it's just, you can find a delivery method that's appropriate for you and your situation that you're in. And so I'll leave it at that.
No, I like that. That's a great answer. And you had mentioned something about vaporizer, and just an add-on question. What are your thoughts about vaporizer versus the good old joint like Super Dave Osborne?
Yeah, I think so. First of all, there is something that happens when fire touches cannabis that is not reproduced by any type of vaporizer. I promise that. I don't know what it is. A lot of people doubt this, but there's something special that happens there. I personally like flower vaporizers a lot. And so for the viewers that don't know, this would be like a little machine that's kind of like a convection oven, and it heats the cannabis up to a temperature where the medicine evaporates. You get to inhale it, but you're not inhaling smoke or other products of combustion. And so it's a lot easier on the lungs, and it's also more cost effective because the fire actually destroys some of the medicine while it's burning. And so those are great. I like that. I use that a lot for inhalation, but I promise you, for me and for many others, it does not exactly reproduce the effect of smoking. And I think that it's important for people who haven't tried smoked cannabis at some point, not everyone, but I think it's very useful to try it sometime and experience that distinct effect. The other thing that's beautiful about, so you've got the classic, the box and whip vaporizer.
Yeah,
It's been around for 20, 30 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that thing works so well, and one of those will sit on your shelf and keep working decade after decade. It doesn't have to be fancy, but I love those types of vaporizers. You can dial it up if you want it a little smoky. You can dial it down if it's too smoky for you. And I'm so glad you have one of those, Gabe. I love those.
Me
The
too,
other thing to
actually.
think
I'm gonna
about when
turn
you're
it on
using the
because it's
joint,
been a
so the
while and
joint
I'm
is
gonna use
something
it.
that's special even beyond the bowl, packing a pipe. And I think that, will you hold that joint up again, Gabe? You could give us the demo since I don't have one here. But basically, if you think about where the fire is at the tip of the joint, that's going to be the hottest part, and you're going to get like this full decarboxylation, and everything's going to like burn and go up there. But then from the tip of that joint all the way down to the rest of it, there's a temperature gradient that's happening. And so you're going to hit temperatures in that joint that will vaporize THCA. You're going to have this whole range of temperatures at which these compounds will vaporize at different levels, and something special is happening with that temperature gradient as well. And using the cannabis flower itself as a filter for its own smoke, joints are beautiful. So I think that's special as well. And it's hard in COVID times. A lot of people aren't sharing joints. I think joints also specialize in being something that is easily shared in a social group, and that's really helpful. And I don't know if you've ever done this, Gabe, but if you guys want to share joints, the best method is you can, this move here, where the chillum move, you can put the joint in between your fingers, and then suck on it with the tip of your hand here, and share it that way, and then you're not sharing saliva with everyone in your group.
Yeah.
But I think in these times of COVID shutdown, social isolation is a major problem, and social connection is incredibly healthy. And I hope that cannabis is able to continue to promote that social connection.
Dr. Sulak, I'm suffering from a little bit of anxiety right now. What temperature should I set it at?
Yes. So, if that temperature dial is accurate, I would go somewhere between like 360 and 380 of Fahrenheit. Yeah, crank it up. And you probably, 380, it's going to get a little smoky on you. But yeah, I would crank it up there.
Yeah, 360?
Yeah, try 360. You'll get a good one.
Okay.
Well,
you're going to probably give it a minute to warm up, too.
Yeah, got to give it a minute.
I love those things. What's nice about that, and that's what a lot of people don't realize, is that you have the already been vaped, so you can actually take that brown stuff and reuse it. You can grind it up, you can cook with it. There's still terpenes, flavonoids, some cannabinoids left in it.
That's right.
For medicinal patients, that's another bonus of doing it that way.
That's right. You're not left with ashes. And so it is a lot for people that are, limited in their resources. It's a lot more cost effective to vaporize, and, the cost of the machine will pay for itself very quickly.
I actually have another question here from Andrea Anderson, friend of ours. She was asking a question regarding glaucoma treatment. New patient to cannabis. I understand THC decreases ocular pressure and CBD increases it in mice. But do we have a threshold for how much of the CBD these patients need to avoid?
Yeah, great question. So we don't know that exactly. CBD can increase it in humans too. That's been shown, but likely that's only when CBD is administered by itself. So a combination of CBD and THC should be fine for patients with glaucoma. I would just be cautious with anyone using any dose of CBD, because if they're using CBD at a dose that makes them feel something, right? They're using it for some reason, then it's probably having a physiologic effect, and theoretically that effect could elevate their intraocular pressure. So, I deal with this with patients very frequently, and I lean towards combined CBD and THC use in people with stable glaucoma, meaning their pressures are already under control. They get their eye drops. I just want to make sure I'm not making their pressure worse. For people that are high on their pressure, I leave the CBD out and see how far we can get with THC, because that's going to bring the pressure down when it's unopposed by CBD. And if I have any glaucoma patients that's using unopposed CBD, I make sure they get a follow-up test after taking the CBD to make sure the pressures are okay.
Excellent. No, that's an important point, because a lot of people don't realize there aren't many things that cannabis has contraindications for, but it's important to know where the limits are, and with medications, for example. I have doctors here that they work with patients that we have in common. And when I recommend that a person try CBD, I always want their doctors to know, because, there are things that it does, like with medications for diabetes or a cancer medication, that we have to be aware of what it does for the immune system, things like that. Things that we've learned from you, Dr. Sulak.
Yeah.
But communication is so important. And, getting clinicians, I was in a discussion on LinkedIn the other day, getting clinicians to really take it upon themselves to seek out the education, because it's not mandated yet. And we have a lot of patients out there seeking this out on their own without the knowledge of their doctors and their guidance. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's crazy. My thoughts. So you have a bunch of burned out doctors in a terrible medical system that's designed to be really expensive and just keep people a little sick and not really get them better. And sorry for my cynicism there, but that's really where all the incentives in our conventional medicine system are. And you've got a lot of doctors and other clinicians that are wanting something that's more inspiring, that helps them get better results with their patients, that helps them not feel like they're just peddling these toxic drugs, that helps them build rapport and make therapeutic connections and actually be inspired by their work. And you've got this incredible solution right there. So cannabis is not just a solution for the patient, it's a solution for the practitioner. Because if they would just take some time to learn about cannabis and start talking to their patients about it, even if they don't recommend it, they're going to be building rapport. But you start recommending it, it'll save your career. So I think that's sadly what so many of my colleagues are missing, that there's this incredible opportunity. You don't have to become a cannabis specialist. It doesn't have to be your whole career. It can just be something new that you learn that helps you, and your patients will notice that you're feeling more inspired and making better connections. So yeah, it's sad, but it is changing. When I give talks, at least before COVID, when I would give talks at not a cannabis conference, but like a family practice conference or something like that, over the years, I've noticed the level of interest is really escalating. And now, rather than just refer to Dr. Sulak, I sometimes get a call and say, hey, I've got a patient who's using cannabis. Is this the right advice for them? And I'm like, yes, you go for it. You can do this. Good job.
Well, a lot of people don't understand what healer.com is, and it's a wonderful place to go and get yourself an education to understand everything about cannabis. And it really is a one-stop shop, and depending on how far you want to go, I did the clinical training with you, which was amazing, taking that lecture on the endocannabinoid system and pharmacology and what have you, but understanding that we don't all need that. A lot of it is just understanding how it works in our body, and the different things that we can do. And it's not just cannabis, guys. It's really integrating a lifestyle change, and doing activities that stimulate your endocannabinoid system, foods, things like that. Would you like to?
Sure. Thanks, Lenny. Where healer.com came from was, this was back in 2014, whenever I would travel to teach, people would ask for the patient education material I was using in the practice. And what I realized was that patients all over the place were able to get their card from their doctor, but not get any advice. And they were basically dependent on bud tenders to tell them how to treat themselves. And I just saw this as a huge bottleneck in the success of using cannabis. I want people to be able to use it. And if your doctors don't tell you the right thing, that's fine. So we put these programs, which are still free on healer.com, for someone that's brand new to cannabis, or for someone that has already been using cannabis but now needs to use it in a more medical way, for people to learn about their endocannabinoid systems and how to support that function. And so that's all the free stuff on, and I think we really accomplished our goal of solving that bottleneck. And anyone, anywhere, whether you've got a dispensary next door with fully labeled products, or whether you're growing illegally and making your own products in your kitchen, it doesn't matter. You could go to healer.com, I think, and be able to get some pretty good results with figuring out how to use cannabis in a way that's best for you. And then, kind of the next bottleneck was for people in the dispensaries, and for industry professionals, caregivers to other patients and loved ones, and clinicians to take their training to the next level. So that's the paid aspect of Healer, which includes the curriculum, and it's an online, easy to digest curriculum with monthly webinars that are all on there and recorded, and you can jump to specific topics. So it's a really huge information resource, a very active community that's sharing comments and information with each other. So that's healer.com, and we got a lot of great content on there still. Thanks for bringing it up.
No, buddy, thank you. Thanks for joining us, buddy. Just real quick, we do have to do that giveaway real fast. This is what we're going to do. In order to get that CBD, that is the healer.com's CBD, Dr. Sulak CBD, make sure you go ahead and start tagging all your friends right now in the comments below. Go ahead and tag all your friends. Tag as many people as possible. And I'm going to go ahead and select one. I actually got somebody over here, and they are right now going to start writing down people's names, and we're going to select somebody at random. So go ahead and start tagging everyone that you know, as many people as you want to bother. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they didn't even watch the show. Tag them, because later they're going to watch the show and be like, who's this Dr. Sulak guy, this handsome devil? So that's what we're looking for. That's what we're trying to do. Guys, I just got to say, I was talking about my anxiety before. He told me to set it at 360. I got to tell you, I'm calm as a cucumber.
You look like it.
So, Doc, you know what you're talking about. Wow.
I guess so. But I really don't know everything. And there's, all that we do know about cannabis is still just the tip of the iceberg. And I think it's important for us to realize this. Cannabis is incredibly forgiving, right? You could not know a thing about it, pick up a joint on the sidewalk that somebody dropped, and maybe get some good results there, right? But then there's this really in-depth, nuanced aspect of cannabis that allows us to get better and better results and like bring it to more people in need and safer, more tolerable, and more effective. So I'm just super enthused about the potential. Like, we think cannabis is good now. Come back to me in 10 years and we're going to see it way deeper, better, more effective.
I actually had a question for you. It came up with one of my patients, and it's something that I think is important to talk about. There are a lot of older people who are afraid to try cannabis. There's this fear based on stigma. What thoughts would you have about how to address that with a client like that?
Yeah, I mean, we got to be patient, because and recognize they're there for a reason, right? They've been through a couple generations of misinformation and fear, and it's we can't just expect them to get over it overnight, right? Because a lot of these biases are not controlled by rational thinking; they're reacting. This is emotional reactivity. So to begin with, be patient. But I think number one, using the word cannabis instead of pot or marijuana is a good place to start. It just changes their reaction to it. And then, I think, and making it analogous to other things that they're comfortable with. So if it's somebody that is okay with one or two drinks with their meal, you could just say, well, cannabis, a puff or two of cannabis or a milligram or two of THC is going to be a lot less dangerous than those one or two drinks that you're having with your meal. And if that's too far and they don't believe you, then you might need to back off a little bit. But I think that nowadays, so many people are open to trying CBD because it's on the shelf at the health food store, and people like Dr. Oz are talking about it. And I think that's a fine place to start. My caution is for people that don't know what they're doing with CBD, that buy some random product and try it and it doesn't do anything for them, and they say, oh, I'm done with cannabis. Cannabis doesn't work for me. And that's just a terrible waste of an opportunity for someone to help themselves. So I think if they are going to go that route, certainly look up my usage guide. I mean, you can use that with my products or other products. It's free on the web, so that you can figure out how to actually dose it to make sure you're taking enough of it for long enough to give it a proper trial to evaluate how it's working. But, very commonly, my initial visit for someone new to my practice is an elderly person who comes in saying, I tried CBD and it didn't work, and my doctor told me to come talk to you. Because, I probably send them out with a plan that includes some CBD in there, sure, but they need to know how to use it, but also let's weave some THC in there if appropriate. So that those are my thoughts about older adults. It has so much to offer people. We got so much polypharmacy, and people are just like taking these drugs and then taking other drugs to deal with the side effects. And we just see that like all melting away, follow-up after follow-up after follow-up. We see the drug list shrinking. It's such a unique thing in a medical practice. Most doctors see the opposite of that.
It's sad. I had a childhood friend of mine reach out to me last week, right before Thanksgiving, and the text said that his daughter in her early 20s was on 4 or 5 different major psychotropic medications. And I looked at these and I'm wondering, what the hell? Some of them are doing the same thing. So why is a person on one, but now two of these? And they're redundant. And I could tell one was for sleep. The first thing that came to mind is cannabis. Now, because this friend of mine had a problem with substances in general, his wife was reluctant, but his wife got on the phone, we talked, and just like you're saying, I reassured her that it's safe. When I had an injury last year, the way that I looked at it was one tincture dropper of about 33 milligrams. It worked just like 2 ibuprofen. So, it's safer than the ibuprofen. It didn't affect my blood pressure or my stomach. And it's something that when people start to see that it really is safe, that you use it yourself, and they start to understand there is a science behind it that's slow to catch up, but we know that it works. That's the goal, is to reassure people. And your point about patience, I think, is spot on.
What else I want to bring up, kind of similar to this elder population, it's the adolescents and their parents. Because I don't have the statistics offhand, but there is something really terrible going on with our adolescents in this country right now, and maybe around the world, with skyrocketing rates of suicide, depression, anxiety, and multiple psychotropic meds. You're seeing these teenagers on all these drugs, and what's been an incredible trend in my practice, I mean, just in the last year, this has really increased, where there'll be an adolescent whose parent figures out they're using cannabis, takes it away and scolds them or punishes them. Their grades go down, their anxiety goes up, their family relationships become dysfunctional. The parent finally says, okay, I'll give it back to you. I finally believe you. They give it back, and then they realize they're doing something illegal, and they bring them in here. And like kids are under a huge amount of pressure, like the social media pressure that teenagers are going through right now is just totally new to our species, and really way too much for them to be able to, we can't expect them to deal with that. And I'll put a plug in for the Social Dilemma documentary. I think is a great one to help people really understand what's going on there and some of those challenges. But cannabis is a lot safer than a lot of these psychiatric drugs that are being used in our teenagers, and they're going to come to cannabis anyways. So the problem is, they're doing it with no mentoring. They're doing it as secretly as possible. They're hiding it from their parents. They've got no adult role model that shows them how to use cannabis as a medicine or as a social, spiritual tool. And we have to change that. This cannabis is out there. They're going to have access to it. Let's embrace it and reduce the potential harm by bringing it into the realm of something that's acceptable.
I agree. I find that it works in ways that the medications that the psychiatrists in my field prescribe don't work, especially in kids who are on the autism spectrum. I've never seen anything work like CBD alone. And I find at certain times, they grow changes in hormones, what have you, and this is where THC becomes that next necessary step. It's just understanding that our bodies are at an imbalance. You brought up something, and eugenics, or the changes in our genes according to what goes on in the environment. It's changing things. There's this amount of autism being diagnosed that was never around when I was a kid. So we're starting to see things that are becoming more the norm now. And I find that these children respond incredibly well to cannabis. Now, I don't know if this is, a pet theory of mine or not, if there's any truth to it, but there's also been prohibition for about 8 decades, and cannabis has not been something that has been used for 8 decades by the majority of people out there. So could we have created this endocannabinoid deficiency that's now being expressed as an outbreak of autism and other disorders?
Or at least the irony that because of all of our environmental toxins, not just the chemical toxins, but the psychological and social toxins and all the stressors in our novel environment, like cannabis is a perfect fit as a solution to so many of humanity's greatest health challenges right now. It is so ironic that out of all the medicines, this is the one that's been labeled as Schedule 1, no medical use, and too dangerous even to be recommended by a doctor. I mean, it's just so ironic. Cannabis is a beautiful fit for the biggest challenges in healthcare right now.
Guys, this is
Think we're-
awesome. Thank you, Dr. Sulak. Thank you, Dr. Lonnie. We're just going to go ahead and give away this prize real quick.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
Let's see. It was a lot of names came through, but the one who came up the most was Andrea Anderson. So congratulations,
yes.
Andrea Anderson.
Congratulations.
We're gonna send you a bottle of some of Healer.com's CBD, 200 milligrams. We're gonna send that over to you, girl. And yeah, guys, make sure to visit Ganja Beach Nerds. We got tons of stuff over there happening as well. We just did an awesome show last night. Wait, his name was Dustin also, wasn't it? I believe so. Anyway,
All
Ganja
right.
Beach Cooking. Make sure to check that out. We are having our Ganja Beach cookbook coming out. Go to ganjabeachmedia.com and get 20% off of the book if you do a pre-order right now. Make sure to get it. 50 recipes. You don't want to miss that. Thank you, Dr. Lonnie. This is Ganja Beach Medical Center. I am Gabe Osborne. That was Dr. Sulak. And this is me vaporizing.
Dr. Sulak,
you,
thank you so much. It has been a pleasure having you on. And as always, you just share an amazing wealth of knowledge. And, from me to you, I am just in depth of gratitude for all of the, work that you've done to push this field of cannabis medicine forward. And hopefully we'll be able to help you and to, share this task of educating people. This is the beauty of it, that people, once they understand that this can help us and not harm us, everyone's better. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. It has been a pleasure to have you on the show. And be sure to check out Dr. Sulak's website, healer.com, healercbd.com, and I forgot the third one. Is it Healer Cannabis?
Healer Cannabis. Yeah, if you want to look at the products that we're selling in Maine, check out Healer Cannabis. Thank you, Dr. Lonnie. I love doing this, and I love the opportunity to spread the education and to help people.
Well, thank you again. And I am Dr. Lonnie, and you can check out my website, drlonniecbd.com. I do offer consultations in plant medicine, and I also do some psychotherapy as well. Again, it has been a pleasure having you tonight, and check out Dr. Sulak's website, and remember the Dr. Lonnie code for the discount, 20% off. Excellent products. Again, have a great night, and everybody, happy holidays to you. Stay well and stay safe.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Later, Dr. Sulak.
Welcome. Kyle, can you let Jordan in? I'm Nancy Moss. I'm the editor of Graham Magazine. And tonight we're going to give you a look into one of the newest dispensaries in Florida, the Flowery. And we've got some videos of their grow and of their trimming process. And we've got Jordan Person, our resident nurse, who will be sharing with us the Marijuana Minute. So I'm waiting for Jordan. She says she's back. Kyle, she's still backstage. Well, while we're waiting for Jordan to join us from the backstage area, thank you, Dustin and the Ganja Beach people for that last hour. That was amazing. Dustin, thanks for being with us in Florida, and we appreciate seeing you and hearing your wisdom. So a few weeks ago, I was doing just a routine search for who had what products available in Florida. I live in Southwest Florida, and I came upon a new name that I have seen in the list of people that got licenses in the last year, but had never seen any products from, a company called The Flowery. So I quickly went to their website and started looking at their products to see that, surprisingly, they were offering 8 different types of flower. And they had beautiful photos of them, gorgeous buds. And I was a little confused. If you live in Florida, you know that we have a limited amount of flower, and people, are real anxious to get it. So I quickly ordered some flower, had to have a few conversations with our online chat people, and finally placed my order. And to my delight, they offered a first-time discount. And while I was looking online, I saw that they post their third-party testing. So I went in and looked at the testing to see what exactly do they offer, and what are they showing. Well, they showed everything. They had great reviews or great results from their testing. Of course, not perfect, because there's no way to have a perfect test in a plant medicine. Hey, Jordan.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. You got stuck in the green room backstage?
I did. It was very green back there.
It was. So I was just telling our audience that we came upon the Flowery and how I placed my order, and how delighted. So a couple of days later, they delivered it from across the state. I just went in and picked up my package and had no delays or anything, and came home to find that they had some really good products. And I'm real happy that we have the opportunity tonight to talk to them. You've had a few people asking questions of you that they want you to address tonight on this show. So I think after we run the Flowery videos, let's do a medical marijuana minute, and we can ask Nurse Jordan.
Absolutely. And anybody out there listening right now, I am our staff nurse. I still do write our medical minute column. So if you have any questions about cannabis, please feel free to drop them in the chat box. Otherwise, we will go through the ones that we were asked via our social media. I've been a nurse for 20 years. I'm also a massage therapist, and I am located in Colorado.
Before we get started, can you tell us about cannabis massage?
Sure. So several years ago, when we first passed recreational, now referred to as adult use legalization in Colorado, I had been working for a medical marijuana dispensary at that time, and I was recovering from surgeries myself, and I wasn't quite ready to go back to work the way that I had always done so. And so I'd been working at this dispensary, and all of a sudden cannabis was available in all of its forms to anyone over the age of 21. And I wondered what would happen if you applied it from head to toe. And so I started doing research, and there was really nothing on the internet at the time. There was no website or any one particular individual that I could reach out to and kind of use as a mentor. And so it began as a really big science experiment. And I just bought a bunch of products that were on the market at that time, and just started asking my clientele if they would mind if I rubbed cannabis all over their bodies. And of course, the very next question was, well, what's it going to do to me? And at the time I couldn't tell them. So like I said, just one big experiment. I would ask all my patients questions at the end, and I kind of formed what it was as a modality and what the benefits were. And so a few years into using it as a modality and realizing the exponential powers of topical cannabis, I actually wrote a curriculum for it. And so I've now taught Cannabis Massage 101 to massage therapists around the world. And I actually finished 102 this year. And so, you know, the good old pandemic. But yeah, I love providing education to people. It's been amazing to utilize a license for nursing that when I was a nurse in Florida, where I'm originally from, of course, you can't really talk about cannabis to your patients. You can't talk about cannabis usage for sure. I would have lost my license. Being in a space where I had the ability to do that changed everything for me. And it made me realize that cannabis was, you know, what I was looked down upon for so long. And I needed to be somewhere where it was viewed as medicine. Mm-hmm. And so I'm so grateful for all of the advancements in policy that are happening right now this year. Congratulations to the 5 states that came online. And yeah, cannabis massage is an amazing thing. We make the topicals, we use everything is organic. And we've worked with countless conditions, cerebral palsy, fibromyalgia, sports injuries. People have the ability to utilize cannabis plant medicine without the psychosomatic high that's received, the THC effect, the buzz that you receive. It's not the same with a topical. And so it opens the doors for your grandma and your grandpa and your aunt and the people that don't want to believe in cannabis's power, or maybe are still just unsure of the power of plant medicine. This opens the door for them and shows them that it works.
Great. And so you do this in Denver?
I do. We are a mobile service. So we kind of go all over. We go up to the Springs, we go to Fort Collins, sort of really wherever I'm needed or where our team is needed. And yeah, we've been doing it for 7 years in January. And we've now worked on thousands of patients over the years. A lot of tourism, people coming from around the world. They want the full cannabis experience. And so they get on Google and luckily they find my website and they receive a massage. We come to them. We use high THC, not just CBD. And so that's kind of what sets us apart from a lot of the other providers. It would be illegal for us to have an actual brick and mortar facility if we are applying THC to people, because currently on-site consumption is not legal, and either is the storage of THC products. So a spa could not hold a THC lotion or oil without it being a dispensary. And then once you have a dispensary license, then you can't have on-site consumption via a massage. So where it stands as of now, that's why we're mobile, and we've been mobile for almost 7 years running, and it's worked out perfectly because who wants to drive after a massage anyways? Nobody.
Exactly. Well, thanks. And I kind of jumped around because you didn't get in when we first started. Thank you for that. And let's transition back to the flowery by first tell me, you've written a series of articles for Graham about testing. Tell me why testing is important.
Testing is important for a lot of reasons. Let's start with potency. So if we don't know what the strength is of what we're consuming, then we don't know how high we're going to necessarily feel. And so something like, for example, I have a joint that I was going to smoke here with you guys. We have 21%, I don't know if you can see that, 21% THC, 21.94% THC, 0% CBD. So that's just our potency testing, right? So I know that's a pretty good joint. It says we have an indica, but for any viewers out there listening, we all know that indica and sativa is just merely a description of how a certain terpene or cannabinoid is going to make you feel. It's either going to make you go up or it's going to make you go down. So sativa is elevation and indica is sedation. So let's see. So in addition to potency, contaminants. So first of all, Florida in particular, since a lot of, I think, our viewers are based in Florida, testing just became a mandatory thing this year for Florida. And when your testing first took place, almost every single dispensary that had cannabis failed. And they failed due to too many pesticides or too much mold and mildew, or many other things like yeast or human hair, or there's a lot of various contaminants that can be found in the processing of cannabis. Once cannabis has been processed, you then have residual solvents that are left behind. So are they using propane? Are they using butane? Are they using hexane? What gas or alcohol was used to extract the plant matter? And so then those residuals have to be tested for to ensure that we're all receiving safe baselines, right? Let's see what else. Pesticides. So why is that a big deal? Well, Florida, again, in particular, is an agricultural state. So there are already tons and tons and tons of pesticides that are being used by your farmers. Well, the difference is, and this is in Florida or in anywhere pesticides are being used, just because you can use something on a tomato and it's safe for you to eat that tomato does not mean that if you then take that tomato and process it into hash using a solvent or a gas, and then you add a flame to it, does not mean that those levels of those pesticides are then safe for human consumption, because you're not eating it. We're not just turning all of our cannabis into edibles, right? So we have to make sure that the pesticide levels are safe, if not completely gone. In Colorado, we have an incredible pesticide awareness plan, and constantly the state of Colorado is adding more pesticides to this list that you cannot use. It's also adding more chemical additives that you cannot use, or nutrients that you cannot use, because certain nutrients that, again, you use in other crops are okay. But then when you try to use them, thank you, Lisa, when you try to use them for cannabis, it's not going to have the same effect. Let's see what else. Mold and yeast. So you guys live, I say you guys because I think so many of our viewers are in Florida. Mold and yeast are a very common, unfortunately, occurrence when you live in a high humidity area. So powdery mildew looks just like heavy trichome weed, right? So you look at it, you're like, wow, that's super triched out. But it turns out you're looking at PM that's mimicking those beautiful trichomes. The difference is they'll be white and not translucent or amber colored. You don't want to smoke that cannabis. You want to contact that store and let them know that you have found a problem. Because as I mentioned a few months ago, almost every dispensary or grow in the state of Florida did get popped for dirty, meaning contaminated cannabis. That's your medicine, folks. That's your medicine. So you deserve clean product. No matter what state you're in, you deserve clean medicine. And so if you don't know whether or not your state is testing, as Nancy mentioned, I did a four articles in a series all about testing. I tried to do one article and quickly realized it was going to be like 10,000 words. And so that just seemed like a whole lot of information. And so I broke it down. And at the end of each article, I did a whole call to action section, providing you guys education on how to make your voice heard. It's easier than you think it is. There are organizations like NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, normal.org. you can go on their website. There's ways to make your voice heard. You can write a letter to your senator or your representative and let them know your views and why you feel testing is so important. We have an entire guideline to help you do this and to make you feel empowered on our website. So you can definitely, we can drop links in the chat or whatever we need to do. But if anyone out there is interested in learning how to feel empowered and make sure that politicians are hearing your needs as medical cannabis patients, reach out to us. We are a resource of information for you all, and we will help you, whether it's with a letter writing campaign or whatever it might be. FloridaCan.org, another fantastic organization. Americans for Safe Access, another amazing organization. The Drug Policy Alliance, another amazing organization. Just get out there, whether you're a keyboard warrior or you want to actually attend. Well, I guess COVID's messed everything up politically, so forget that part. Everybody go be keyboard warriors.
Jordan, you've got a little bit of history with being a warrior. Tell people what that is.
So I served as the executive director for Denver Normal for almost 5 years, and we were a flagship chapter for the nation. I worked diligently to attempt to legalize a safe space for people to consume cannabis. We worked on employer drug rights, educating employers so that they didn't necessarily have to remove cannabis from their drug testing policy, but they needed to change their guidelines regarding and surrounding an employer's ability to fire you. Are you actually high right now? Are you impaired right now? Or did you consume cannabis over the weekend and now you've tested dirty on a P-test? That's the difference, and that's the future of policy that we really tried to push until the very end of my chapter. It is just education in the differences. What is active impairment versus what did you do last weekend? So we did a lot in my time with Normal. I can't speak highly enough for Keith Stroop. We have written about Keith. We're actually another article is coming out about him in our December issue. So definitely check that out. Check it out on our website and getgramnow.org. But we did a lot of amazing things at the local, state, and national level. I took groups to DC every year, and we got to lobby Congress and, meet our personal representatives and senators, and just being part of the political process changed my life. It made me understand why regulations are written the way that they are and why we need them and why they're important to shaping the framework of this entire industry.
Thanks, Jordan. You've been on Negtopia's events before a couple of times, so people have gotten to know that you sure do know a lot of people, and you have some great contacts. Now they know a little bit about you and how you have those super contacts and how much we appreciate having you here at Graham. So we were talking, I know we got a little disheveled in our schedule tonight. I was telling the people out there about the Flowery and my experience with them. How about we watch a short video with the Vice President of Marketing for the Flowery. Share screen. Hang on just a second. Here they. Mm-hmm.
Wait, no, you have to pick one. Screen one. And hit allow.
Give me just a minute.
Okay, now hit play.
No worries. Technology.
Hi, Nancy Moss here today with Graham Magazine. Today I'm meeting with Steph Hawk, the Vice President of Marketing and Sales for the Flowery. The Flowery is Florida's newest addition to the medical marijuana treatment centers. Hi, Steph. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you here today. Can you tell us what's the Flowery?
So the Flowery, as you mentioned, is the latest MMTC in Florida. We have been fighting for our license for about 6 years now. is the latest MMTC in Florida. We have been fighting for our life.
No, hit me.
And we're based in
Technical difficulties. So I think the camera's just on me right now, so I don't want there to be any dead airspace. So hi out there. How's everybody doing tonight? I'm gonna light this joint and let's see what else. Wait for Nancy to pop back on with our video. I'm looking at my notes over here to see if I missed anything about testing. I was going to talk about clean medicine after I talked about testing, and so I'll just kind of talk a little bit about that. So there are different methods of consumption. And so what are the best methods of consumption that you can do? It looks, sorry, my editor is texting me and it's frozen and it's muted, and I will tell her the camera is just on me. Isn't technology fun, you guys? It's so much fun. I think everything has to do with that gigantic moon that's been in the air lately. And then that partial eclipse that just happened. I don't know if anybody out there believes in those sort of things, but I definitely feel it has an effect on everyone. Let's see, flickering. Okay, great. So wait, do you have sound right now? Can everybody hear me out there? Someone just said no sound, but I don't know if that was from a minute ago. Thank you, Ben Owens. So does anyone have any questions for me right now while we're waiting? I'm here. I'm a resource in our magazine. Any of you out there that picked up a copy in any dispensary in Florida or around the country, you would have seen the Medical Minute. And each month we would talk about various things. From this month, or this issue was specifically about cancer. And so cannabis and cancer. I could talk all day about that. I could talk all day about neuropathy. Not really sure. You have sound. There's Nancy. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm missing on here. So we got kicked off. So hold on, and while we get reset.
No, you're fine. You reset. I'm going to keep babbling. So I just had someone ask about cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. So I have a personal story regarding cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. For those of you that don't know what it is a condition of extreme vomiting, supposedly induced by cannabis. And for some, it's very real. For me, I had a spasmodic condition of vomiting episodes that I have had throughout my life. And cannabis was generally the only thing that would ever calm it down. In addition to cannabis, there are theories right now that capsicum, or the hot portion of pepper, has the ability to calm the condition down. And so in like 99% of cases that are reported, individuals state that if they lie down in a bathtub and the tub covers the solar plexus area, which is where the stomach and the intestines meet, that their symptoms subside. And so this is true for me as a patient myself. As these episodes have happened at any point in my life, cannabis induced or not, the only thing that has ceased the episodes is to be in the bath. The moment I am out of the hot water, the vomiting episodes begin again. And nothing stops them until finally my body has completely retched everything completely, and I am so officially dehydrated that I can't function. Then I can finally consume cannabis. It's a horrible situation to have to suffer from in patients that are not just experiencing a cyclical vomiting episode as I was, and are truly experiencing cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. Very sadly, the only thing that fixes the condition is the cessation of smoking. And so blessings on blessings that I do not have that actual condition. And I did just have a cyclical vomiting episode because cannabis saved my life. I use it every single day of my life. I actually moved to Colorado as a cannabis refugee. In 2010, I was very, very ill, and I had a tumor removed. Actually, I had my gallbladder removed, and they discovered a massive tumor on my liver. And they told me that it was inoperable and that basically there was nothing that they could do. It was benign. I should go about my life. And so I woke up about 2 weeks after my gallbladder removal, and my eyes were so puffy, my skin, everything about me was swollen. And the nurse in me, that was now at that point on 13 pharmaceutical drugs, I felt like I was dying. And so I knew that Colorado had a medical marijuana program. Again, this is in 2010. And I figured if I was going to die, I was going to die with cannabis in my hand, because I had spent all this time trying to heal. And that was all I wanted. I just wanted to feel better. And cannabis was the only thing that actually made me feel better. Yes, Gabby, please do subscribe. And so when I got here, I got my medical card almost instantly and began consuming tinctures, as Dr. Dustin Sulak was mentioning. I was taking capsules. I was using topicals. I was drinking hash. Any way that I could get cannabis into my body, I began consuming it. And one by one, I started to come off these pharmaceuticals that I was so dependent upon. And then I started having even more surgeries. I had a total abdominal hysterectomy. I went into kidney failure from a stone. They then removed the stone. After the hysterectomy, they put me into kidney failure again, and I had to have an emergency nephrostomy tube placed onto my kidney to try and save it. Then they went in and did what's called a non-refluxing ureteral reimplantation, and they moved my bladder up and over, kind of rerouted everything for me so that they could save my kidney. And then finally in 2012, I had a liver resection where they removed 60% of my liver. And even still, after all of those procedures, cannabis, this is what saved me. This is the plant medicine that I turn to for every single symptom that I've experienced. And it is effective in one form or another, in one cannabinoid or another, in one terpene combination or another. This is my medicine. So I will smoke to that. Nancy, what's happening over there?
Hey, thanks for welcoming me back. You know, it's an electronic device, and you know me and electronics, they just jump all over. So I got kicked off, but if you want, I'm ready to reboot, and we're at a starting point to join in on that flowery video.
All right, let's do it.
You might be new to the cannabis world, but not new to plants.
Good. So when did you start sales in Florida?
About mid-October.
Mid-October. And how do patients find you?
So we have our website, which is theflowery.co. So that's .co, not .com. And we
do not have any dispensaries quite yet. We are a family owned and operated business. So we are taking one step at a time. And so we're doing two things. We're doing delivery every day in Miami area, which is close to our facility. And then we do patient pickup events at different doctors' offices around the state. So the best thing to do is to check out our website and sign up for our email list. And I promise we don't send many emails out. It's just to let you know when we will be in your area. So we ask for you to just put your county. And I personally actually send the emails out. And I just give you a heads up that, hey, we're going to be in Sarasota or Tampa or wherever it may be. And you just have to place your order by 8 p.m. the evening before we come. And and then you go to the doctor's office and it's a quick exchange.
Sounds great. We were actually talking today because I found you and placed an order. And just like you said, I placed an order. It was delivered 2 days later. And I walked in, presented my identification, paid my bill, and was able to leave. It was a very quick transaction. I appreciated that. So tell us about the people that work at the Flowery.
So we, as I mentioned, we're family owned and operated, and I always like to say family goes beyond blood. And so there's many of us that are by blood related, but there's also many of us that are not. But I consider everyone family and even patients. And as we grow, we want everyone to feel that they're part of our family. That's how we feel.
Well, I can agree with that. We're part of the Flowery family now too.
Absolutely. Love to hear it.
So tell me about your products that you sell.
So again, quality means so much to us, and the medicine is in the flower. And so that was we knew that was something that we wanted to focus on, because if your base product is amazing, then every other product will be amazing. And the Florida market, everything, we've heard so many people say that there's either not enough flour or not quality flour. So that was something that we wanted to perfect before we even thought about anything else. So I know some patients would love for us to have other products, but we wanted to stay focused and make sure that we could be reliable. So when you do try our products and you want it again, we want to make sure that we have that inventory for you for each patient. So right now we're only doing flour. So we have we have flour jars, and then we have pre-rolls, but that's all we have right now. But in the new year, we will start expanding. But again, we just want to stay focused. And again, everything we do is about the flower. We're plant focused. I mean, that's why one of the reasons why we named it the Flowery is because the flower is the gem, and that's the most important thing with the medicine.
Exactly. Can you tell us what would make you 6 years ago decide that you wanted to get into marijuana business in Florida?
So there was criteria for you to even apply for it, and there was a long list, but one of them was you had to be in the nursery business for 30 years, which we have for the last 40 something years actually. And so that was a little, so one, we met that criteria, but more so was my brother. He was in the military, and he did 2 tours in Iraq and went through a painful 2 tours. And when he came back, he suffered from PTSD significantly. And so he was really the driving factor in the beginning, that he understood it and knew the benefits of it. And so that was our main reason in the very beginning. And then he passed away about January will be 4 years. And when he passed away, that was when my family said, it's not an option. We're going to do this. We're going to do it for Matt and all of his brothers and sisters and fellow soldiers. And so that was something that then it wasn't an option. So that's part of why we sued the state, was because we were so determined that we were going to do it for him.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your family suing the state. Thank you for getting the license. For our viewers' knowledge, I ordered products from the Flowery the first day that I found them online. received my delivery and was extremely pleased with the quality of the flower. But before that, looking at your website, what struck me was you have your testing results on your website. Why do you do that?
So again, we're very real, raw people that we are family and we're native Floridians, which means you kind of stand up to authority and want to do things differently. And we were proud of them. And, you know, even on the ones that maybe our testing isn't perfect, we did just start. So of course we're going to have to make some tweaks and not everything is going to be exactly what we wanted. But we're not ashamed of it. All of it is still very high quality and amazing. And so we just wanted to be upfront. We had enough people asking on Reddit and making comments, and everyone asks for it, but no other dispensary has done it. And even our lab company said, wow, kudos. They're the ones that sent us a long article from a lot of feedback on Reddit. And they said, bless you. Like, you guys have the balls to actually do this.
And like you said, you didn't hide if there was something. Of course, everything was passed from the state,
of course,
but you didn't hide anything, and I thought that was admirable. And as a patient, I sampled your products and have sampled most of the products in Florida, and you are top shelf. I think I got 5 strains from you. Every one of them was surprising in the quality and surprising in the aroma that just filled your nose and went directly to where it should go in your body to tell you this is amazing medicine. So I am so proud that you're in Florida and so glad that the people in Florida are going to have the opportunity for such good medicine. Thank you for bringing the flowery to Florida. And we look forward to a long relationship with you. And I'm excited to watch you grow and expand.
Thank you. We thank you for having us. And I mean, the conversations you and I have had are just so touching, and the passion that you have and the entire community has been so amazing. And the biggest thing is we need to get our name out there. Not many people know about us. And so that's our only hurdle right now. Everything else has been amazing.
Well, I'm going to tell you that today, as this is broadcast, and in the next week after it's put out, you'll have a big reach, and I hope more people know that there are other options in Florida. I think whenever you have a good competition, it just raises the level for everyone. Yeah. And that you're putting a bar high. Good. That's pretty cool to come out and start that way. And do it with not one strain, but I believe when you started, you had 8 strains?
We had 8, and I think right now on our website we have 10, but we did start with 8, which is more than, I think maybe more than anyone.
It was a lot, and like I say, the shock was, they were all good. And there wasn't one that you went, well, you know, I wouldn't buy that again. Yeah. That's a surprise. That says a lot about who and how it was grown. So when people may say, I've heard it, the flowery, they're only into the flower, it starts and ends with the flower. That's where the medicine is. So I applaud you for being all about the flower. And I'm so grateful. We're going to have a video now that I think your brother has sent about the grow and a little tour maybe.
Yeah, a little clips, a few clips and some photos and whatnot. I hope you guys enjoy.
Well, thank you again for being with us, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
And one last thing to we didn't touch on is, yes, the flower is the most important, and we also our flowers listen to music. There's a lot of passion that goes into it from the music that they listen to. We also hand trim every single flower. There's not a machine that has ever touched the flower. So I just wanted to reiterate that, because I know some people don't believe us, but you'll see on our Instagram and our Facebook that we truly are hand trimming everything.
That's amazing in this day and age. I think for the viewer that's a consumer, can you address the difference between a hand trim and a machine trim?
I mean, it's a lot more delicate. So all we're taking out every single non-flower, everything that you're not going to want to smoke. Whereas when a machine does it, it doesn't get all of the pieces properly, and then other good parts also get shaken off in the process.
That's so true. You explained it really well. So when you're getting a hand trim product, you're capturing more of the trichomes still on there. They haven't been jostled in a machine and gotten knocked off. So the hand trimming, and the other point you made was?
I was just saying that, well, I mean, we're organic and we have our plants listen to music, which I think is just so cool.
I think I shared with you that I like to go into a grow and sit and play music and talk to them. So I think that the girls love it. And it's science behind it.
Exactly. And then one other thing that sets us apart is my uncle has a patent on, in layman terms, I like to call it an air purifier. But so that way that we don't have any mold. So I know a lot of dispensaries have a challenge with that sometimes with the humidity and all of that, but that's something that we do not, that doesn't happen with our plants just because of our air filter, basically.
Another family member, huh? With a patent. Just happens to have a patent. You have an amazing family, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, we do.
All of those things are wonderful. And just for our viewers to know, after this video, we'll be showing you what I did with some of the flowers. We'll be using my dab smasher and making rosin. And then we're going to be adding it to some Christmas candy recipes. And again, it's theflowery.co, www.theflowery.co.
We're going to talk in between them.
And go on and check them out and see what you think. Let us know what you think of the flowery when you try their products. We'd love to pass your messages back to them. Thanks for showing us telling us about the flowery today and educating our viewers. And we'll talk to you soon, Steph.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Hey, Jordan, what do you think?
I wish it was in Florida. And then I would go.
So that was, I interviewed Steph after our first delivery. We got another delivery today, and see if I can get it up there where you can see it.
Hold it in front of your hand.
Hold it in front of my hand, she says.
Like this.
Oh, like this. Hold it in front of my hand. Then you can't see how big it is, but okay. Very nice. That's one of the larger buds, but they're all very nice. I'm just surprised because we thought, okay, was ordered and delivered, and they didn't, they had no idea who was, who I was, what my name was, or anything. And to see that the second delivery was as good as the first was really pleasing. And I think the people in Florida deserve that quality of medicine. Like you said before, when we talked about testing, that's what did my head a jerk. When I saw their thing was you putting your testing online, and not only that, your testing was pretty darn good. Of course, there's levels that the state has determined. You talked to Holly Bell earlier this year, right before or right after the testing laws were enacted in Florida. And it's been, since July that we've done a Freedom of Information Act for the testing laws, and we're still waiting for them. Yeah. So we will bring them into the magazine when we get them.
Absolutely.
But from your articles, that's how I knew what to look and what was red flags. We talked before because when I've heard about there being mold or powdery mildew, I wouldn't have known, like before when you were telling us that, it was, you thought they were trichomes and they weren't. For a lot of people, this is the first time that they have had the opportunity to obtain cannabis in Florida. Legally obtain cannabis and have options and many options of where to go and purchase. And it's nice, like I said in the interview, I think that raising the bar is good for everybody. And it's got to be the best thing for the patient.
Absolutely. Florida started out with those K-cups of cannabis. There was mold inside them. So, you've come a long way already in the short time that you've been a legal state, a medical cannabis state. And so I look forward to seeing how your regulations continue to evolve and change as time goes on.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to set us up for another video here. The flowery, after I talk to her, we'll be going for a tour of their grow and their operation. And I said, any chance you've got a couple of videos you could shoot us? So I'm going to do a share screen here. And this is, you'll enjoy this, Jordan. Having worked in dispensaries and in grows in Colorado, you understand hand trimming.
Oh, absolutely. I started as a trimmer before I was ever a bud tender.
I want to claim this is how I got this, but no, it wasn't. We've just been working hard to get Tonight's show and Friday night show with our sponsors put out, and our December issue will be out on Friday too. So I think I have computer thumb. So let's watch this video now. I think it's real fun video. Hit allow.
Boom.
This is called quick trim.
Wow. I wonder how many actual hours this was for.
Oh, yeah. And how many blades he had to get sharpened or.
You have to typically wipe them down before you have to sharpen them. You have to get all of the resin off. And so you have to wipe them down with alcohol, with isopropyl as you're trimming, or, get your finger hash off first and then you can wipe. It depends on if you're like, I always would pull my finger hash before I started the next strain, and then clean, see if they need to be sharpened, next strain. My days as a trimmer.
Days as a trimmer. So we have that at a little slower speed. Let me get that set.
I mean, look at that cola.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
I love cannabis.
I want to see that again.
I'm not a picky girl. I just really love it.
Oh, it's beautiful, and the opportunity.
Are you going to smoke any of that fine cannabis that you have there?
I am.
Fire it up with me. And anybody at home that's watching us right now, please feel free to fire it up and consume with us. especially if you're in a legal state, specifically if you're in a legal state.
Specifically if you're in a legal state and if you're in a medical state, you have your card. I want to show you 2 more quick videos while we have a little, they're quick videos. The first one is a pre-roll machine.
Okay.
And then the second one is something that we'll all drool over. Some wedding cake.
Awesome. And then if anyone listening out there has any questions before we jump off, we do have a couple questions from the audience that we're going to end with. But if any of you do have questions out there, please feel free to drop them in the chat box.
Oh, great. I don't know what's going on tonight.
That's okay. Technical difficulties happen.
They do. Let's try another one.
Okay.
Click on that one.
Yum.
This is wedding cake, and I've not seen that available on their site yet, or maybe we missed it. But wedding cakes, the cakes seem to be a really good medicine for me. And I medicate for pain. I have chronic pain. I have fibromyalgia. So along with that comes insomnia. And a little anxiety at times, it's pandemic. and the last that we had of the cakes was the layer cake. And I can't wait to try this because the trichomes are amazing on this flower, and we're really excited about it. So that's the flowery, my new discovery in the last couple of weeks. I welcome all entrants into the market. As I have said a couple of times tonight, I think that when you have good competition, healthy competition just raises the bar, and we need that. Everybody needs that. Jordan, you talk to a lot of the cannabis scientists, and they're always looking for ways of improving the medicine and the medicinal benefits that we get. So I'm happy with this. But are you ready now to become Nurse Jordan and answer a few questions?
Yes, I just put. I mean, I never really take it off. You're once a nurse, you're always a nurse.
I understand. So we've had a question about cannabis and autism, and what's the research say, and can you address that?
Absolutely. Whoever asked that question out there, thank you for asking. There is a lot of research on cannabis and autism. It's definitely more of a new topic. A lot of these studies, thank you, Gabby. A lot of these studies, excuse me, are coming out in the last 2 years, this year even. You can either go onto Google scholarly articles, or you can use PubMed, PubMed. Type that into Google. Both resources, research engines will be able to give you can type anything in there. You can type cannabis and autism. You can type cannabis and epilepsy. You can type cannabis. And you'll see that there are actually more studies that have been done on cannabinoids than there have been on acetaminophen, which is Tylenol, which is the most commonly recommended drug ever. Pharmacists can recommend it because it's on the shelves in Walgreens and the grocery store and anywhere else. So autism and cannabis are incredible together. We have a story coming up in a future edition of an amazing little girl in Florida that was basically nonverbal up until a few months ago when she started using cannabis. And this was after her parents exhausted every single option. And they just wanted a chance for their daughter to feel some type of normality in her day-to-day life. And I'm proud to tell you that because of a combination of CBD and THC, and it was truly the THC that she started to turn corners and make sounds and try to say words for the first time in her life. And she's nearing 4 years old. So there is definitely a lot of research. Look for that article in a coming magazine because it's coming.
Next question was about cannabis-induced psychosis. Is it real?
So that was a question that we received on our Instagram. And yes, cannabis-induced psychosis is real. As a medical practitioner and my fellow medical practitioners as well, we all like to talk about the positive sides of cannabis plant medicine. We don't often like to talk about the scary negatives that can happen to certain individuals that may have certain variances in their endocannabinoid systems, or perhaps it's in another system. But cannabis-induced psychosis is generally going to happen to someone that's already has the predisposition to have a psychotic episode. And it's generally induced by high amounts of THC after no consumption of THC. And generally, the lack of THC will stop the psychotic episode. So there's a lot of guidelines that psychiatrists have come up with to know the difference between a regular psychotic episode and an actual cannabis-induced psychotic episode. And so Nancy and I were talking last night about cannabis-induced psychosis, and I told her that it was in fact a real thing. And so I'll just tell you quickly a story of a dear friend of mine who came to visit me and was already borderline having a manic episode that hadn't really been identified yet as mania. And he got into my car, and at the time I was, as I mentioned earlier, working for a dispensary, and we made this amazing Colorado cannabis tears. And so it was a take on Phoenix tears, RSO, Rick Simpson oil, the ethanol extraction of THC from cannabis flower. And we actually made it into a syrup. And so the syrup was in my car, the capsules were in my car, all the things that I made because that I work. I worked there and I take them myself. I use all the forms of cannabis. And so long story short, he picked up the bottle of THC and chugged quite a bit of it, and then grabbed a couple capsules, and I'm sure we were smoking. And that night he did not go to sleep. And the next day he ended up having this psychotic break at my job. And it got pretty bad. He ended up almost assaulting someone, and the police had to come. And when he got arrested, he didn't even know why. And because of the amount of cannabis that he consumed, he was high for several hours after being arrested. And he did a lot of really crazy things. Like the voices in his head were so loud that he balled up toilet paper and he stuck it in his ears to try and make everything be quiet. And so I see that we're nearing the end of our time. And so I just will kind of cut it off there. Cannabis-induced psychosis is absolutely a very real thing. My friend spoke in tongues. We had no idea that any of this could ever be possible because of a plant. But I can tell you that person no longer consumes cannabis and hasn't had an episode since. So the paranoia that some people experience when they smoke a joint that's maybe too big for them, or they drink syrup for the first time, that paranoia in some individuals is just simply that. It's paranoia. You look out your window and you're like, oh, I'm high. For other individuals that might have a predisposition for a psychosis or psychotic episode, it's a very real thing. Much like patients that have predispositions for heart attacks for various reasons, using high THC products for certain individuals can cause tachycardia, which is an increased heart rate, which can cause a heart attack in someone that is already kind of brewing that storm. And so, again, they're not things we talk a lot about as medical professionals because we like to see the positive side of cannabis. We don't like to ever focus on that negative, but cannabis can do a little bit of harm if we don't know what our conditions are and we don't know what we're consuming and we don't know if we have clean medicine. So again, make sure your medicine is clean. If you need help writing to a senator or just you want more information, follow us on Instagram at GetGramNow. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Grassroots America Magazine, GetGramNow.com.
Thanks, Jordan. And we'll be back on Friday night from 7 till 8. And we're going to bring some incredible sponsors that have donated items for the auction at the end of this event to raise money for Canna Moms. And we hope you'll join us then. Thanks for tonight. Sorry about the electronic glitches, but hey.
It happens.
It happens.
Blame it on the moon. Thanks for listening and tuning in, everybody. We appreciate you.
All right. Good night.
All right.
Hi guys, happy Wednesday night. You know, normally about 8 or 8:30, we're just finishing up a Wednesday night meditation. So for all my friends that normally hang out with me on Wednesday night and do the Wednesday night meditation, thank you so much for your patience. We'll get back to meditation next week. But tonight was such a great opportunity and such a great cause. I want to mention that we're here on behalf of Canna Moms, and you have an opportunity tonight to donate to Canna Moms through Nugtopia, through Pray for Bruno on Facebook as well. And then on Friday night, at the end of the broadcast, there are so many amazing donations in the silent auction and in this auction that's available. So if you haven't taken a look at some of the cool auction things, make sure that you do. And if not, make sure you tune in on Friday night. So tonight, for me, we're going to talk about olive oil. It is one of my favorite things. It's so good for us. And not just that, but most of the people that I know that do infusions usually infuse olive oil. That's one of the things that we usually tend to infuse: olive oil, right? Coconut oil, butter, ghee, things like that. So I wanted to talk to you a few minutes about, hey, Gabby, thanks for tuning in. I'm so glad you're here. I've got an easy recipe to share with you for this orange olive oil cake. And while I was writing that down, I was doing some other research, and I can't wait to pull out of the oven a really cool quick bread recipe that's real similar to the olive bread, to the olive cake. And it's actually an olive oil quick bread, which is so unusual. You know, normally quick breads are like banana bread or something like that. But this is rosemary and with just a little bit of zest from a lemon and olive oil and some flour. It's such a cool recipe, and I'll post that tomorrow. So that's in the oven coming out in just a couple minutes. I do want to hit everybody up and let you guys know I'm so excited to be working with Nugtopia and with Ganja Beach on this cookbook. I've written several cookbooks in my life, but this one, since it's infused, has a special place in my heart. There are appetizers, there are entrees, sauces, desserts, some of my favorites, some things that have been my favorites for a long, long time. So right now and through Christmas, you're going to be able to pre-order the cookbook at ganjabeachmedia.com, and it's only $20. So it's a really cool gift for yourself if you're into self-shopping for the holidays, or it's a great way to pre-order something for the first of the year for you or for a friend. We really appreciate the support. There's going to be some awesome photographs of the food, and then I'm really grateful that Cole has decided or volunteered, poor honey, to draw some pictures of some of the food. So yeah, Nugtopia is going to be in the house and in the cookbook. So I'm super excited about that. I'm really excited to share that with you. This particular recipe is one of my favorites. I've been making this recipe for a couple years. I actually saw it on Food Network and kind of changed it up a little bit, since olive oil is one of the things that we infuse a lot. And normally this recipe is made with blood oranges. And around fall, so November, December, January, great time for blood oranges. But right now, not so easy to get. I checked at Publix and a lot of the grocery stores close to my house, and no blood oranges. So you know what we do when we're a chef, or when you're at home and you're cooking and you reach for something and it's not there, you punt and you use what you've got. So tonight we're going to be using some really cool, we're going to use our little cuties, right? Sliced like this, right? In little wedges. And then I also got some navels, and so they're sliced like this as well. So one of the things that I love about olive oil and being able to put olive oil in cakes is that it keeps it okay for our vegans and our vegetarians. And this recipe is totally vegan and vegetarian proof. Also, olive oil is one of those things that normally you don't think about in a cake, but when you try this cake, it's really a cool thing. And it's in one of those upside down things. So it's kind of a no fail. Put a little sugar on the bottom. We're going to do that in just a minute. In fact, I'll turn that on now. So I'm going to take my pan, and in here I've got some brown sugar and a little bit of water, and I'm going to let that soften up and just kind of get a little caramely. And then we're going to put that on the bottom of our pan. Now, normally you can do this in a round pan. If you choose to do it in a springform pan, which is kind of cool, just make sure that you line it so none of the liquid runs out. But tonight I decided to use a square pan because I figure everybody at home has a square pan, right? So olive oil, let's get back to olive oil. Okay, so if you took the cooking class or if you've watched me before, I'm a big proponent about keeping an infused kitchen. And so infused olive oil and infused regular oil are two things that are so important. I also keep infused hemp oil for mayonnaise, salad dressings, things like that, because hemp oil or hemp infused oil has temperature issues when you start to cook with it, anything over 185. So I always try to use my hemp oil as things are coming off the heat, or as we see things and use them in a cooler area, like in a mayonnaise or in a salad dressing, or maybe in a marinade where the internal temperature is not going to get over 185, although the outside temperature might. So remember, internal temperature is what you're looking for. So even when you're baking cookies and things like that, your internal temperature is going to be different than your external temperature. So a 350 brownie on the outside is probably not going to be 350 on the inside, more likely 325 or maybe even 300. So always check that out if you've got a thermometer, or what I always do is just make sure I add the hemp or the hemp oil on the outside or coming back on the outside. Now, olive oil is so good for us. It has omega-3s and 6s. And you know what else has omega-3? Oh, come on, I can't believe I don't have any. Omega-3s and 6s, and that is hemp seeds or hemp hearts. And so entourage effect is one of the things that I like to talk about, and one of the things that I like to include in everything that we do. So how absolutely awesome that one of the great things about hemp hearts, which is antioxidants and all these other things, they have the basic omega-3s and 6s. And why we need omega-3 and 6 is because it helps our bodies actually build protein. And so we are actually building protein while we are eating really cool things. I love that. It's got vitamins A and K and E. It fights cancer. It helps with inflammation, heart disease, arthritis, as opposed to butter, which kind of doesn't do any of those things. Olive oil also helps with your brain health, which is really good. I should probably have a half a cup or so a day, right? Is anybody else drinking olive oil? Hey, Carrie, and right, toasted hemp seeds. So one of the things, I'll share the recipe for the bread when it comes out, but I also included the toasted hemp seeds in that. And we're going to throw some of them in our bread as well. Also, one of the things that is really, really great about olive oil is that it fights cancer, it fights Alzheimer's, and it fights obesity. So remember, one of the cool things about THC is that it makes cancer eat itself. So if you've got THC and olive oil that has THC, what an amazing combination, and what a great effort inside your body to heal it, to keep our homeostasis. It just makes life a whole lot better for us when we have the ability to medicate all day long. Now, one of the things I also love about this recipe are the oranges. And as I said, tonight we're going to use local navels and some local little cuties I got at a fruit stand down the street. Of course, everybody knows that oranges have vitamin C, but did you know they can lower your blood pressure, lower your cholesterol, and your risk of cancer, especially colon cancer? They help with eye health. They even help with constipation. Who knew that oranges would do something like that? But one of the things that I learned when checking out oranges is that in 2500 BC in China, they found the first orange seeds. So that is shit tons old for oranges, right? So oranges have been around a while, and there's a reason that they're around, because they work. And these are really good for us. So as I'm looking at my caramel, okay, so it's just starting to melt. I'm going to turn that heat up a little bit. And the timing is perfect because I want to pull this loaf out, and I'll share the recipe for this. It is super easy. I'm going to read it to you now, and then I'll post it. But the recipe for the bread is 2 1/4 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a tablespoon of dried rosemary, a tablespoon of sugar, a teaspoon and a half of salt, a cup of milk. So I used plant milk. I used almond milk, but you could also use hemp or hemp seed milk, 2 eggs, a 1/4 cup of infused olive oil, and a couple of cloves of garlic. So all of that is in this absolutely adorable quick bread. And one of the things that I love about quick bread is it's that cool recipe where you've got liquids in one pan, in one bowl, and wet in the other bowl, and you just throw them together and mix them up. So let's pull this out of the oven and take a look and see what it looks like, and then we'll get back to making our absolutely awesome orange olive oil cake. Okay. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's see if I can put this so you can see it. Okay. Here's the side. You can see the toasty parts. And then this is the top. So not as brown as we would expect other breads to be, right? Like banana bread or something like that. So the instructions said, yeah, it's crusty. The instructions said 40 to 45 minutes. So this was 40 minutes. I'm going to turn the oven off, put it back in for just a couple more minutes, and we'll check on it in just a second. No, these recipes aren't in the cookbook. But starting in January, Carrie, we're going to start doing a few live broadcasts so we can cook together. So if you get the cookbook, then you and I can cook together. One of the great things I want to share with you is my Cool Street taco recipe with an avocado coleslaw. Oh my God, and shrimp and grits. It's one of my favorites. Actually, what's really weird about the bread is that I found the recipe when I was looking for cool olive recipes or olive oil recipes, because I'd use this olive oil cake recipe before when I first learned about it. You'll see, if you look back about a year or two ago, you'll see some pictures. I did some individual ones with some cannabis leaves and some blood oranges on there. But this is going to be a little different because we're going to use a square pan. We're going to use some absolutely awesome fresh cannabis leaves. And then we're going to mix our recipe together. One of the cool things about this particular recipe is it is super, super easy. So this recipe is, how much is this? Come on, guys. Okay, so this is 1/3 cup of brown sugar and some water, and you've got that on the stove. And you're just going to bring that to a boil. So you're going to want to melt that out, and that's going to be the surface of our cake, because eventually we're going to turn our cake over when we present it. And I may run out of time tonight, so one of the things that I can't wait to do is show you the cake tomorrow when we meet tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Because tomorrow at 1 o'clock we're going to do appetizers together. I'm going to give you 3 to 4 different easy recipes for appetizers, cool things that you can make from some of the things that you've probably got in your fridge or your freezer, because everybody is doing a little bit of entertaining. And let's face it, we're all doing a lot of snacking. So this way we can snack on some cool cannabis items that we've made in our own kitchen. All right, so I have bubbly caramely, can you see it? Yeah, sugar. So I'm going to pour this into my baking dish and let it spread out. Come on. Because this will make the bottom crust. I should do this. Sorry, you didn't want to look at my back. I tried a different place to put the phone, so let me know if you like it or if it's working or if you can see better. Okay, so you kind of spread your caramel all the way out on your pan. Voila. Now, here comes the cool part. Oranges. So I'm going to lay 1 giant orange in the middle. Peel on. And then just line the sides of the pan. Right? Okay, can you see? With the rest of the oranges. So again, imagine if it's red, you've got the blood oranges, but these are just the local oranges that I have here. But I like the difference in the color. Okay? So super easy so far, right? Gabby, can you do this? I think you can. I have faith, right? A little bit of brown sugar and some water in a pan. Bottom of this pan. All right, now it's time to mix our ingredients together. You don't need, come on there. God, I'm stoned. Sorry, you guys. You don't need anything but a whisk to do this. You can get your mixer out if you want. But also wanted to give you guys another hint. One of the things I learned in culinary school, for a cutting board or a bowl that you're going to mix with, if you take your paper towel and you get it wet, and then you put it on your surface, and you put your bowl on there, right? Then your bowl will not move while you're working with it. So how cool is that? So in here I have, this is it. Yay! All right, so flour first. So this recipe calls for 1 1/3 cups of flour. So I use 1 cup of regular flour and 1/3 of a cup of whole wheat flour. And this is baking powder and baking soda. So I don't know if you know the difference or not. Baking soda will start to react immediately once you start to mix it with other things. Baking powder, on the other hand, doesn't become active until it gets warm. So that's why when you use both, you'll get more rise out of powder than you do with baking soda. And that's what makes a difference in cookies as well. So I hope that makes a little sense. Let me grab the bread and we're ready to go. All right. So we're just a little crispier on the top. So I'm going to show you this bread tomorrow. We're going to cut it open together tomorrow at 1 because I'm going to show you some cool appetizers that we're going to be able to do with this bread or any bread that you have at home. But I can't wait to cut into this. So this is lemon zest and rosemary and olive oil. A little flour, sugar. How cool, right? Right from my oven. And now right from your oven. So let's finish our cake, right? So we're back to our dry ingredients. So again, this is one of those cool dump things where you put all your dry ingredients in one thing, put all your wet ingredients in one thing, combine them, and then pour the cake into the pan. So it's one of those fairly easy recipes. All right, so other dry things is going to be sugar. And so I use organic brown sugar, not from Florida, because, you know, those big corporate sugar guys aren't such good guys. Sorry, didn't mean to get a little political, but you know, it's me. So one of the cool things about this recipe is that yogurt is one of the things that creates moisture. And I am actually using mango yogurt in this. So we've got mangoes and oranges from Florida. I'm also using our infused olive oil, and this is going to be 3 tablespoons of our cannabis infused olive oil. And that was 1/3 cup of yogurt. And it takes 2 eggs, this recipe does. So I'm going to put in our wet ingredients, right? So we're going to dump in our yogurt. And seriously, you can just buy like one of those little containers of Publix yogurt. Gabby. All right, there's our cannabis oil. And always remember, guys, when you're doing your eggs, to crack them outside of your pan or your mixing bowl because you want to make sure no shells. All right, all good there. 1 egg in. Ah, see, shell. I hate it when that happens. But since we were talking about it, it was bound to happen, right? Okay. So, liquid ingredients, again, we had 2 eggs, 3 tablespoons of infused olive oil, and 1/3 cup of yogurt. And what we are going to do is we're just going to whisk that together. Not so hard, right? I mean, you guys can do this, right? Just a whisk. You see? And you just want to get it until you have a pretty good consistency. See? Yes. Okay. Now, one of the things that, since we're putting oranges in the bottom, we're going to want a little orange flavor. I always use my microplane to get some orange zest, and I like to add that into this wet part because the orange zest and the oils from the orange will go ahead and mix in really well with the yogurt. And this is truly one of the coolest tools ever. They have them at Walmart now, which I can't even fucking believe that they have microplanes now at Walmart. But this, if you're playing in the kitchen, this is one of the coolest tools you can ever have. Getting zest off of a piece of citrus can change your life and change your recipes. And this is one of the coolest ways to do it, right? You're just kind of scraping along the top. You're getting zest. You can actually smell the zest. And then you're just going to drop all of that yumminess right into the batter. So that adds orange flavor without adding calories or adding liquid, right, to a recipe. So that gives you the ability to add flavor without changing the consistency of a recipe. You can do that with lemons. You can do that with lime, grapefruit, any kind of citrus like that. So now the easy part is you just dump the dry ingredients in. I'm going to mix first with spatula. You can start to smell the orange, and I can actually smell the cannabis in the olive oil. Did you guys infuse olive oil? Does anybody have any infused olive oil left from the class? Yes, no? Maybe. Okay. So the batter is just a touch dry. So what I'm going to do is cut this orange in half. And, oh, come on. Add just a little bit of orange juice. Right, and that'll just help bring out the orange flavor. This is one of those cakes that's not going to rise a whole lot, but it makes an absolutely beautiful presentation. I usually serve it by itself, but I saw that a lot of times people are going to make a simple syrup, and so you can use a little bit of sugar and some orange juice and make that simple syrup to go over it when it's cool. You can even do that and put that on the bottom when it comes out, kind of like a poke cake, because eventually what's going to happen is this, after it comes out, is going to be turned upside down. And you'll be able to see that tomorrow. And the only reason we're not going to finish doing that tonight is because this cake has to bake about 40 minutes. So I was hoping that maybe you wouldn't mind coming back tomorrow night for a little while, or tomorrow during the day for a little while, and checking back in. I'll post some pictures of the cake and some slices of the bread. Ooh, cannabis, hang on. Hello. Stay right there. Thank you. Okay. Cannabis. Get back. All right. So we're just going to mix some of our leaves in one of our corners and spread our dough out. It's a little sticky, kind of like a sugar cookie dough, if you're familiar with that. Even almost like a quick bread dough. But remember, you've got baking soda and powder in here. And so all of that will spread out and will give it a lot of rise. One of the things that I learned in culinary school is everybody tends to overbeat a recipe. Once you've added the flour and it's mixed in and you can't see it anymore, I mean, you don't want giant lumps, but you're pretty much done. You don't have to keep beating over and over and over again to make something come out okay. Once everything is blended, you should be okay. Now, for those people that don't have cannabis-infused olive oil, you do have the ability to use your cannabis syringe, right? Your concentrate. Heat some olive oil, get it to about medium heat, right? You don't want it boiling, but you want to make sure it's hot. And when you do that, then you can add your concentrate. You don't have to add all of the concentrate, or you can make super strong, right? And then divide it up. So one of the things I like to do is have my ingredients a little stronger, and then I can dilute them. So I can use a tablespoon, right? I could use a tablespoon of cannabis-infused olive oil if I use that concentrate, based on the fact that that's 800 milligrams. So basically, a tablespoon would be about 200 milligrams, and you that's a lot for one person. So if you're doing a cake like this, that would work, because you're going to get probably 6 or 8 slices out of this cake. All right, so that's what our cake is going to look like going in, but let's try this. That's, wow, sorry, what it's going to look like coming out. All right. All right, the timer is set for 45 minutes. Yay. So I hope you guys will tune in tomorrow at 1, and I'll have the cake out. I'll have the bread. I'll have a couple of 3 or 4 different appetizer recipes, quick, easy things that you can do from home, from your spice drawer, and with your awesome infused olive oil, even with your amazing hemp infused oil, right? So we'll have some cool recipes tomorrow at 1 o'clock for to finish up my time. I wanted to thank Cole for his awesome Don't Nug t-shirt, and for volunteering to do some things in my cookbook. So I'm super grateful for that. I want to thank Kyle for all of his efforts at putting this together. I can't imagine what it must have taken to put all of us together, the glass blowers and Michael Minardi and the influencers and all the doctors and everybody that have been on here in support of Canna Moms. You know, we go through a lot in a normal life, right? In a normal life, we go through a lot. I had PTSD and a whole lot of other things before COVID happened. And I can't say that COVID has made it any easier, or that a lot of the things that have happened through COVID have made it any easier. I've made some amazing friends, and for each of you, I am truly, truly grateful. There are days when I sit and am actually grateful that the airplane didn't crash into my house. And some of you are the reason for that. So I really am thankful for that. But no matter how bad my life gets, my life will never, ever, ever be as difficult or as challenging or as great, right? Those awesome moments as our friends that are our Canna Moms, right? Our Canna Moms that fight for the ability to give their children the medicine they need. Our Canna Moms that for so many years had to be medical refugees in other states. And so we're grateful for the fight that Giselle has and the fight that Mariah has in them to stand up and fight for not only their babies, but the Canna babies everywhere. So take a few minutes, dig deep in your wallet and dig into your heart and find $5, $5, $10. I'm sure you've got something. Reach in your couch. There's got to be some fucking change in your couch, right? There are kids that need shoes that are special shoes because of the diseases that they have. There are medical vans that Canna children need to travel in. There are all kinds of things that these families need on a regular basis when there is no COVID, right? When there is no shitty shit. So COVID makes it worse. COVID makes it harder. It makes it more difficult for them to get into the hospital. It makes it more difficult for them to get the help they need. It makes it harder for us to give, right? It's harder for us to give when we have little ourselves. But I know in your heart, and I know somewhere in your couch or in your piggy bank, there's $5. And my $5 and your $5 or $10 or $50 can make a real big difference right now in the lives of these kids and in the lives of their families. And from a woman's perspective, from the lives of their moms, right? From the lives of their moms. So why wouldn't we, as a community, reach into our hearts and reach into our pockets and do something outside of ourselves? Something to make somebody else's life just a little bit better. We fought for so long, all of us, in the closet, right? We've had friends that we didn't talk to about cannabis because we couldn't talk about cannabis. But we can now. Except, a lot of us still have friends that we don't talk to about cannabis. But right now we are in the middle of our cannabis community, and our cannabis community needs us. And our Canna Moms and our Canna babies need our help. And so, again, super grateful for Nugtopia, for Cole and Kyle, and them stepping up and putting this together for us. Totally just amazing. And I'm grateful to have been asked to be a part of it. I'm so thankful for each of you to stop and tune in and watch me do what I love, which is cook and share cannabis and cannabis recipes with each of you. Tomorrow will be a like I said, appetizers. And then I want to make sure everybody puts on their calendar to tune in at the end of the event on Friday night, when you can't wait to see the amazing things that the sponsors have got in this auction. So there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of ways to help. You can help yourself and help Canna moms at the same time, Canna babies too. So I know I was supposed to go till 9:30. I couldn't imagine talking again, you guys, for an hour last night and then an hour tonight. So I hope it's cool with you guys that in about 40 minutes, we'll have some cake coming out of the oven. I'll show it to you tomorrow. I'll see you guys at 1 o'clock. If not, I'll see you in the morning. And starting next Wednesday, our meditations will start again, right? Meditation Wednesday nights. And don't forget, go to ganjabeachmedia.com. Check out the info on the cookbook. I think there's like 50 plus recipes. It was such a pleasure putting it all together and sharing some of the cool things that I love to cook, and some things that I learned to cook from my grandmother and my mom and some of my dearest friends. You know, my first shared recipe was when I was 8 years old, Mary's brownies, man. And when I had my wholesale bakery, I made, I don't know, probably 20 dozen brownies a week for years and years. And super grateful to share that recipe with you guys. If you get the pre-order, and go ahead and get that now, the cookbook's only $20. So I love that that's available, and that Nugtopia is doing artwork. We're going to have some great photographs, and that Kyle has put all this together. Thank you, Kyle Trent. You are an amazing person. There should be a Nug shirt with your name on it for sure. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I can't wait to cut into this rosemary bread, and I can't wait to share the recipe with you tomorrow, that we're going to make some appetizers with this bread. Love you guys. Peace, love, cannabis. And I am out for the night. Bye.